Hello and welcome to a special episode of Clock the Tea with Dr. Long. Before we get into the episode today, I would like to extend my condolences to the family of Renee Good, the American woman that was shot and killed in Minnesota earlier this week due to violence from ICE. Hi everyone, so let's go ahead and get started. Earlier this week on January 7th, it was reported that Renee Nicole Good, who was 37 years old, a U.S. citizen and a mother of three from Minneapolis, was fatally shot by an ICE agent during a federal operation. Now, DHS claims that she attempted to ram agents with her truck, but there's a lot of footage around with several neighbors who were in the neighborhood showing us otherwise. State officials dispute this and say that federal agencies are withdrawing evidence. Additionally, they're refusing to work with local governments. Here's what the community is having to say.
Here's how local and federal officials are reacting to that deadly shooting.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is to ICE. Get the f*** out of Minneapolis.
He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training, did exactly what he's been taught to do in that situation, and took actions to defend himself and defend his fellow law enforcement officers.
Now, protests are erupting around the country. On the left side of your screen there is New York City, and on the right side, Minneapolis. And that is where we find CBS News correspondent Usher Qureshi. Usher, what are you learning about the victim and the ICE agent involved in this deadly shooting?
Well, as you mentioned, she's been identified as 37-year-old Renee Good. She was a mother of a 6-year-old. We do understand, according to city leaders, that she was here as a legal observer, looking at what was going on here, observing federal investigations here in the neighborhood. And we're just a short distance away from where this happened, just a few hundred feet, Mugo. And over the last few hours or so, we've started to see the growth of people coming to visit this memorial where she was killed. As for that ICE agent, not much has been revealed about him. His identity has not been shared. They do tell us, we know from two federal sources that tell CBS News he's part of an ICE enforcement and removal operations team. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said the agent was taken to the hospital and later released.
So, some fact checking, that was CBS News, and this was a report from, I believe it was from about 24 hours ago. Some of that information is not correct. We do know who the shooter is, so I will get that information for you all in a moment. But let's go ahead and get some more information. So, Minnesota officials say that the U.S. Attorney's Office is blocking them from accessing evidence, as mentioned before, including video and investigative material. So, any kind of video that they have or anything that they have knowledge of, they're refusing to work with the state. The FBI is technically investigating this, but the state authorities say that they've been pretty much shut out of the process, which has been fueling accusations of this federal cover-up of the incident that is happening in plain sight. Speaking of the incident of where Renee was murdered, vigils and protests have erupted, not only in Minnesota, but across multiple states, including Iowa and North Carolina. And now there's hundreds who are marching in Minnesota right now, especially the night after the shooting, which was on the 8th. And we see more than 500 people gathering in Asheville alone just to mourn the death of her and to demand some accountability with gun violence and how this action was carried about. Now, ABC News is also reporting that the ICE agent who shot Renee Good was injured in a separate incident in June. And what they're saying is that this raises questions about his prior conduct and whether he should have been pretty much put on duty during this operation. Now, from what we can see in the video is that the first two gunshots were fired milliseconds apart from each other directly into Renee's face. There's also video coverage showing that the SUV that she was in was actually not blocking traffic at the time, although ICE and the administration is reporting that. You can also see in the videos that she's waving for ICE to go around and letting them go around her so she can get back to her destination. Obviously, let's keep this in mind. She is an American citizen. She is a mother of 3, and she just got back done from dropping off her kid, her 6-year-old kid at school, and she was probably just really passionate trying to stand up for her neighbor. There's no evidence or footage of any form of violence whatsoever that is being mentioned by this administration, nor is there any complete blocking of her vehicle as mentioned. So we all know those to be blatant lies, as the mayor of Minneapolis mentioned, and also the governor. Governor Tim Walz and the Minneapolis leaders have demanded transparency, and we know that Kristi Noem and JD Vance have publicly defended the shooting with statements that conflict the reporting and eyewitness accounts. Take a listen to what JD Vance is saying right now.
I stand with ICE. We stand with all of our law enforcement officers. And part of that is recognizing that you people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before, and everybody who's been repeating the lie that this is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her, you should be ashamed of yourselves. First of all, of course, nobody wants an American citizen to be killed. This is absolutely a tragedy, but it's a tragedy of the making of the far left. They have radicalized a very small segment of the population, taught them that ICE agents are engaging in wide-scale violation of people's rights.
So if you can, let's talk about a few things. So JD Vance says a few things that are not true. But let's talk about the issue at hand here. He is basically insinuating that the person shot, Renee Good, may she rest in peace, was a domestic terrorist who was completely attacking ICE officers, and he's comparing it to an incident that happened earlier in June to that same officer, where he was dragged down the street by a vehicle that was trying to escape ICE, and unfortunately his arm was caught in the vehicle. Now, comparing that incident to this incident, it looks clear as day that Renee was not in any harm towards any ICE officer. And additionally, there's a lot of politicization of the incident right now, where JD Vance is trying to label the left as a problem right now and trying to create a divide in the country to embolden more ICE agents to commit more crimes. As we see, there's more incidences happening throughout the week, and we'll get into another tragedy that happened as well. But from this, we can also say that there is a lot of issues with who is considered a domestic terrorist in this incident. And I will tell you right now, point blank, that Kristi Noem is definitely looking like a domestic terrorist. The way she responded to the situation by downplaying it. And JD Vance is the king of them all in regards to making sure that this is a cover-up, and that he is going above and beyond by what the president is saying and creating this false narrative of what actually happened in the incident. Now, other information that we can get from this is that there has been a lack of an investigation, as we all know, but the Minneapolis mayor called the federal claim basically the self-defense that they're saying and all what the story that they're fabricating as garbage, and that I should get the fuck out of Minneapolis. There was also some conversation being had that Fox News reported that basically that Good had been stalking ICE agents for hours or something like that. Either way, they're trying to create a narrative to justify the shooting versus reprimanding the officer who went up to her and took the gun out of his pocket and pointed directly in her face and shot her 4 times and then moved out of the way. You can see the stunned looks upon everyone on the scene, as well as everyone who was recording, as well as some of the officers in their body language, is how they kind of looked a little bit like, uh-oh, that just happened kind of thing. So there are several bystanders that recorded this additionally. And, you know, this is also going to be a concern because there is a attempt to minimize the public mourning of the incident right now, but we all know that this is going to be something that's going to play out for the rest of the year. There's been already talks about abolishing ICE throughout 2025 based on the recent raids throughout cities like Chicago, New York City, and as well as LA. So expect a little bit more this year for sure, but also I will definitely keep us in the loop on this. I want to say that this is an horrific incident. I think the president should be ashamed of himself. I think JD Vance and obviously these ICE agents should be ashamed. If these ICE agents are supposed to be protecting Americans and deporting people who are here illegally, why isn't the focus on that? And why is there a scuffle between an ICE agent and an American mom? So there needs to be some answers to that. I think what's happening right now also is that we're being left out of actual conversations that are being had, and we're being left out of actual framing of what this actually should look like in terms of making sure that Americans are safe. Because right now, this is violence that was committed by the government. If you look at it from that angle, like in Portland, Oregon, there's another shooting that happened by federal agents. This time, the U.S. Border Control agents were shot, or no, they were not shot. They actually shot and wounded 2 people for a targeted vehicle stop in Portland. Now, the Department of Homeland Security claims that the driver attempted to use the vehicle as a weapon. And the Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield, I believe, launched a formal investigation into this, and the Portland officials have renewed calls for federal agencies to halt operations, and there's going to be more on that. So we know that there's violence running amok, and the year has just started. This is no shock or surprise to a lot of people, giving like the notion and giving the rhetoric that they have already had around ICE and that they've had around closing up the border and making sure that people who are here illegally are forcibly removed from the country. I think there's a few points that we need to consider is that the unrealistic expectation of deporting millions of Americans that was not actually carried out last year by the Trump administration. It was actually a false approach to pretty much distract from the fact that there wasn't that much happening at the border in regards to it being more secure than it was. And there was a lot of talk about them saying that the border was open. In fact, when Trump got into office and towards the end of his term, there wasn't as much security as he promised. And in fact, he said he wanted to build a wall. But now looking at this time going around, right when he came into office, one of his first priorities was to secure the border, and he did that. So why are there so many ICE raids happening right now? Why are American citizens still dying? This all seems like a major distraction and a carry out of domestic terrorism to keep an authoritarian leader in power. So I will definitely keep you all in the loop on that, and I'm going to continue speaking out about it because this is not self-defense. This was a murder in plain sight. This was a disgusting murder from the right and from the ICE agents who are paying people to actually go in and murder Americans because they're not properly trained on how to de-escalate conflict. Okay, so moving on. Republicans have also voted to block Trump from seeking full control over Venezuela. Now, the Senate advanced a bipartisan war powers resolution limiting Trump's authority to use military force in Venezuela. And that's 5 Republicans that joined Democrats. So the vote was 52 to 47, I think. And Trump publicly attacked GOP leaders who supported the measure. And he also is feeling a little bit kind of like he has to put out more rhetoric out there that they must leave and that they must not be elected and that they shouldn't be here to do their jobs. Take a listen.
The U.S. Senate just advanced a resolution that would limit President Trump's ability to conduct further attacks against Venezuela. Democrats and 5 Republicans voted in favor of the War Powers resolution. Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed is live for us on Capitol Hill. And Nate, I mean, this is sending a big message to the Trump administration. But what comes next?
Yeah, Holly, but this is pretty much exactly that. It's a message to the Trump administration. This is not something that will really limit the ability for President Trump to continue U.S. involvement in Venezuela in the southern hemisphere. There's a lot of questions about just exactly what this will accomplish, other than sending that message to the White House that not just Democrats, but a handful of Republicans are, have concerns about what direction this conflict could be going as the Trump administration has repeatedly refused to rule out any further use of military force on the ground in Venezuela as they look to set up a government that has favorable conditions to do business with the United States, to trade oil with the United States. So a lot of questions there. I asked Senator Rand Paul, the Republican from Kentucky, one of the handful of Republicans to vote with Democrats on this measure, just exactly what the message he's sending is.
Okay, so we're not going to get into Rand Paul's discussion, but I will continue the conversation. So 5 Republican senators, as he alluded to, broke with Trump to advance the war powers resolution. So those Republicans were Rand Paul, as mentioned, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Josh Hawley, and Todd Young. And this group is notable because it spans like a libertarian, moderate, kind of like populist party of the MAGA, of the far right, if you will. But what does this mean? So this bipartisan revolt came days after the U.S. captured Nicolas Maduro, obviously, as we mentioned. And then several Republicans expressed concerns, as mentioned. So the GOP was just kind of reacting to this policy. And reports are showing that Trump told the New York Times that U.S. oversight of Venezuela's oil revenue could last for years, insinuating that the U.S. does have control over Venezuela. Now, the vote was 52-47. And Democrats and the 5 Republicans advancing this resolution will likely, kind of get into some conflict here, even though the measure does likely face a veto and there's uncertain House prospects right now. And the vote itself is like a formal Congress, like basically just kind of rebuke of Trump's strategy of how he wants to approach Venezuela. And Trump lashed out immediately. He publicly attacked the 5 Republicans while also saying that they should have never been elected, as we talked about. And right now, it's not looking good in terms of keeping the government open. There's so many decisions that are still up in the air. And the resolution is privileged by the GOP because the War Powers resolution basically will force Republicans to take this public stance to give some more ownership to Venezuela and international law on how to handle this incident. And it will kind of take us basically out of it and not give us so much control where we don't need it to be. And right now we know that Trump is just doing this because he's looking to kind of find any kind of distraction from the Epstein files. And he's also looking to make sure that we are focused on other things in the news and that things are headlines. And even if it's all about, gaining control and starting a war, this guy does not care. Trump is the president for Trump. And as soon as Americans start to wake up and realize that, things will be much better. Now, I will go on into another topic because the House just voted for a 3-year extension of the ACA healthcare subsidies, the Affordable Care Act subsidies. And they passed a 3-year extension, which enhances the originally expanded subsidies during the pandemic. And the vote went from a 230 to 160 or 196, with 17 Republicans crossing over this time. Without these extensions, we knew that millions would face steep premium increases, and we look like that's probably not going to be the exact case, although some are still expecting to see some healthcare changes with their premiums. The Senate is expected to challenge the bill, and the vote was pretty much forced via the Democratic discharge petition that was signed. So there's a lot of information around that, and there's a lot of back and forth that was happening in Congress regarding this bill. But good thing they're back to work, because that was a huge concern for the average American that lives in the middle of America or in small town Wisconsin, or anybody that we know that actually receive these benefits and can't really afford for their premiums to go up. So good job on Congress, but at the same time keeping one eye open as the Senate is looking to do whatever in their power to carry out any of Trump's cruelty. Now, the last topic I wanted to kind of get into was to talk about this incident with Cardi B versus Tasha K. So we know that Cardi B just made like this appearance in RuPaul's Drag Race, earning strong fan reactions. She had an album that was released last summer. All in the midst of all this blogger Tasha K reignited this drama from these past allegations of Cardi online. And then Cardi responded online previously on X, accusing Tasha K of harassing her and talking things about her child and all this stuff. And the feud is still ongoing. Now, what they're saying right now is that Cardi well, just to give a recap on like the history of this whole thing. So we know that Cardi had a defamation lawsuit. So she sued Tasha K, which was this person online, back in 2019 for spreading false and malicious claims, allegations about STDs, drug use, and prostitution about Cardi. And the defamation lawsuit went to a federal jury in 2022. and Tasha was ordered to pay over $4 million in damages, and then she went into bankruptcy. Tasha K went into bankruptcy, and this is an old incident. So in 2025, Tasha agreed to a 5-year repayment plan for Cardi B, and now speed all the way to this incident. This has nothing to do with this, but they're still feuding for some reason. There's still some online beef, and apparently it's because Cardi is standing up for her current partner, and Tasha K had something to say about it. Kempire reports.
The reason why I'm even talking about this is because we've covered the saga that is Cardi B and Tasha K's legal issues. Well, this has nothing necessarily to do with their legal issues. It's their ongoing dispute of just drama from years and years and years. And as you know, Cardi B did win a lawsuit against Tasha where she's now owed millions of dollars. Has she been paid any of those millions of dollars? Well, probably not anything close to the full payment. But it turned really nasty and ugly on X's Spaces yesterday. I can't even play for you because it would take me this entire day. I would be here all day editing the amount of cuss words from Cardi B on her Spaces. But shout out to our friends over at Hot New Hip Hop. They help us summarize some of what played out yesterday. They said Cardi B previously filed a defamation lawsuit against Tasha K and is still trying to get her judgment from the case. They said Cardi B has been going at Tasha K on social media after the blogger seemingly claimed that she might be facing witness intimidation charges over a claim that she contacted an alleged victim of her boyfriend, Stephon Diggs. Tasha initially made the allegation in a post on X, formerly Twitter. Even though Tasha didn't mention Cardi by name, her move still prompted the rapper to hop on X Spaces and set the record straight. I feel like Cardi was on Spaces yesterday all day. Even at one particular point, I went in just to see what was happening. I was like, why is she on Spaces? So after denying the claim, Cardi warned Tasha K about finding legal loopholes to harass her. Tasha still, because one of the stipulations of that lawsuit that Cardi won was the fact that Tasha could not mention Cardi in a derogatory way. So Cardi feels as if Tasha is now focusing on people that are close to her and covering those stories. So after denying the claim, Cardi warned Tasha K about finding legal loopholes to harass her. Tasha still owes Cardi millions of dollars from the rapper's long-running defamation case against her.
So, my goodness. Cardi is always into it, right? But here's the thing. I don't blame Cardi right now. I think it's super important that she's being authentic, first of all. But let me just say this. At the end of the day, Cardi B is going to do what she's always going to do. She's going to be herself. And, you know, she's herself. She's unfiltered. She's unbothered. She doesn't need to, like, manufacture, like, drama with these people. I feel like this person who she sued for defamation is just someone who is pissed that they have to pay back millions of dollars and they're on this payment plan. You know, so Cardi, in my opinion, she probably wakes up authentic. Well, obviously she does. She probably goes to bed authentic, wakes up authentic. And in between, like, being too busy winning and working and minding her business, this mess that always finds her. And I think Tasha K is out here acting like, you know, a pop-up. And nobody asked for her. We want her to go away. She's showing up uninvited. She's very much adding chaos where nobody placed her. And Cardi is here to let her know that she's not the one. It's kind of tired. Cardi already won in court. In life, to be honest. And obviously in the culture right now, she did phenomenal on RuPaul's Drag Race. And we just love her hands down. And especially her new album. Because Cardi, you know, is the drama. And she doesn't take the drama. This just shows you that she's taking checks and she's willing to set the stage for what that looks like for people that come for her. And if folks keep poking at her, she's just going to push back. They're going to end up right back where they started, pressed, stressed, and paying legal fees. So I think in regards to this, you know, leave the queen alone. Right now, she is definitely nowhere near anyone like Mega Minaj, who is willing to cave their entire morality to bullshit. And Cardi's the type of girl who's just going to call it out. And you heard it here first. Thank you for listening to Clock the Tea with Dr. Law. Hi, tea sippers. Let's get into that reality tea and spill it all. So, I want to start with some breaking news and hop right into it because, you know, that's what I do. And it looks like the Real Housewives of Potomac Season 10 reunion seating chart was released. But there's a caveat. Months after Karen Huger was granted early release from prison, where she'd been serving time from her DUI, you all remember that? she will be joining the girls at the reunion. She hasn't been on the season all year, and apparently she's going to get another special episode towards the end of the season. But yeah, she's going to be joining Wendy, Giselle, Tia, Monique, all the girls at the reunion, and it's pretty gaggy because it looks like. Well, let's go over the seating chart. So right next to Andy, we have Wendy and Stacy, and then next to Wendy is Giselle, and then Tia, and then Monique at the end. And then on the other side of Andy, you have Stacy, and next to Stacy is Ashley, and then Kay, and then Angel, which sounds correct. And then later on in the show, so I'm sure they're just gonna film the regular reunion with the current ladies that are in the mix, and then bring Karen Huger in later on. Wow, yeah. So they're probably gonna bring her later on in the show. So, wow, there's a lot of fan reaction. A lot of people are saying Wendy and Stacy first chair. Oh my goodness, Wendy and Stacy first seat. Karen, what? I'm invested, and I must say I'm also invested. I think this is gonna be great. I think there's going to be a lot of conversation needs to be had regarding Wendy and her fraud. So I'm glad that she's in the first chair to give the rundown of that. But also that Karen gets to come back into the fold of the ladies and gets to live her life normally and hopefully share what she's learned, having gone to jail for her DUI. I bet you she's sober. Last time before she was going to jail, she was very adamant about not having a drinking problem and that she was sober and that she hadn't drank in a while. And that we know that she was facing a lot of shade from the ladies, including Ashley, who went out and purchased her all these Uber gift cards so that she can have access to a driver when she's drinking too much. So it'll be interesting to see if Karen is going to address some of the ladies, including Wendy and Ashley, for kind of their distance from her. But if she's willing to talk about some of her newfound friendships after being released from jail with some of the ladies who were old friends but now are new friends because they stuck by her side, so that would include someone like Kay, for example. Monique, I would assume, has conversations with Karen. We know Giselle regularly has conversations with Karen, and Candace, I believe, but Candace is not on the show. We'll get into Candace in a minute. But it's just quite interesting about like what's happening this year, and I'm hopefully that this will be some closure for the ladies as they decide to move on, hopefully with Karen into season 11. But right now I'm liking the current group, and I'm liking hopefully just making sure everyone comes back so that the stories can unfold and we can tell the truth and just keep it 100 and keep it a buck in the DC area. You know, just like Ashley tried to say to her little young boyfriend, playmate, whoever he was. Anyway, Ashley's weird. Okay, so let's move on into another series. So the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills episode just came out the other day, and the ladies are still in Arizona, I believe, hanging out, and they all took a private jet, and, you know, the new girl is having a lot of, you know, impact on the ladies, it seems, because she likes to talk a lot about what she has, and she's very materialistic, and talks a lot about the money she spends and that kind of thing. So, but it's quite interesting because she went to Kathy Hilton's home, and Amanda met with Jennifer Tilly, Sutton, and Kathy, and they were all having tea and drinks, and basically, obviously, they're Beverly Hill ladies, they're going to talk wealth and that kind of thing, but, you know, Amanda didn't shy away from the stuff that she has, right? And she talked about having her 2 homes and that kind of thing, and the ladies were just kind of all looking along at each other like, what the hell is going on? And then when they got to Arizona, Amanda went on this rant about what she does basically for a living, and some of the ladies were falling asleep. So I don't know, it's giving scheme scammer, it's giving not authentic, it's giving what is she really about. But one thing I found very interesting was that Amanda was willing to stick her neck out about Dorit and make a comment about Dorit saying too much about basically the marriage, and saying that the information was coming from other people and she was just getting like the second hand of it all. And that, you know, Jennifer Tilly is agreeing with Amanda by saying that, you know, basically, okay, girl, like, yeah, I think that is weird that she walks around the group calling PK alcoholic. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if Amanda's goal is to make friends with these ladies. Right now, the show is for promotion and for promoting her life and that kind of thing. Because it was a little weird how she went on her little soapbox to promote her wellness company or whatever. Which, girl, do your thing. If you got to promote yourself, promote your stuff. But how are you making friends with these ladies and you're just talking about, oh yeah, I spent $10,000 on that and on crystals in one sitting, blah blah blah, or I got Erica in that moment. What gagged me is when Sutton was like, don't for one moment think that you got Erica in that moment. And I think Sutton was coming from a place of someone who couldn't connect with Erica right away. And I think that's why she spoke up and said something. But Miss Amanda, girl, I don't know who didn't tell her, but this franchise, these ladies are nasty nice because they're rich, right? So like they're like going to either pay her dust or see what she's about, or probably dive into more of her finances, because if she's coming to the show and making it seem like she's that girl, you know the ladies are going to have a comment about it. Rachel Zoe was being as fabulous as always, doing her thing, commenting on everyone's fashion as they enter and leave the plane. I'm really starting to like her as a housewife on that show. I love the relationship that she has with her sons, but most importantly, I like what she brings to the show. It's like, it's a breath of fresh air. I think the chemistry is slowly starting to develop with this group, but I want there to be more cohesion. I see a lot of Jennifer and Kathy kind of running story right now, and I honestly think that the OG girls should be doing that. I think Kyle should be running more story. I think Sutton should be running more story, and I think Erica should be running more story right now. So, I don't know. I'm sad for the Beverly Hills girls, but I'm really nervous for Amanda. I don't think she's going to come out of this unscathed. I think the ladies have had it already. Sutton looks fed up when she was on Watch What Happens Live. So, well, she's, you know, Sutton likes to be nasty nice, so, like, you can't really get a read on her. So, what's interesting, too, in the preview was that Jennifer Tilly made a comment about, you know, maybe this is why Garcelle left, because, you know, Sutton likes everything about her. Well, I mean, what else is going on? Because that's not news to any of the viewers. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's something that we kind of already figured with Sutton. So, anyway, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is off to a great start. And I think the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City has just heated up with that finale. So, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, Mary has addressed the girls. So, Mary addressed the girls because, let's back it up a little bit. Now, Ms. Bronwyn decided to have a conversation with, I believe it was Meredith off camera. But it's not the way that the girls make it seem so. Because what's happening right now is that Bronwyn has said that Meredith reached out to her via text message and was basically saying, I heard y'all girls was talking about me, what's up? And Bronwyn is confused because she said she just saw her the other night and they were all on camera and filming, and why couldn't she say anything to her then? So she found it odd, and they woke up the next day and had a conversation. And while having the conversation, Bronwyn definitely spun out on Miss Meredith in a way where it's like, Meredith, how are you gonna just... Meredith paid her dust. She did not care. And it's not giving what the girls thought it was gonna give. Just take a listen.
I mean, I'll say it. After we all went to bed last night, Meredith texted me and said she wanted to talk. There was something that was said in the conversation that I felt uncomfortable about. Meredith said to me, it's been a lot. For weeks, I've felt targeted. Lies have been said about me. What did you guys talk about at lunch?
And this is where we have a sticking point, because Bronwyn thinks I was pumping her for information.
And I wouldn't have said something if it was the first time.
No, I was not.
She started to try, in my opinion, to gaslight the shit out of me. That's the nicest way I can say that.
I'm so tired of this. This is a load of shit.
You did ask questions last night, and you did want me to tell you about it. And then she said, I was lying about that conversation last night. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
I didn't ask. I made a statement about the lunch.
And I said, I'm not dealing with Miss Marks Esquire. I'm trying to deal with a friend. I want to be friends with you. I've stood up for you. I've other relationships for you, which is on me. But how much more do I have to bleed out for you before you stop me with other people? And I'm exactly right, and you're quiet for once without any legalese behind it because you know it's true. Get Meredith.
Okay, so what was all that about? Okay, I'm just going to be honest. What was all of that about? I feel like, okay, whether or not these ladies have a point, it's giving weirdo vibes with how much they are crashing out over Meredith. Now, here's the thing. I believe that something did happen on the plane between Meredith and Brittany. But I don't think the situation was going on for hours. I think they were all just in a plane and they were traumatized because Meredith was cutting up and they didn't know what to do. So let's keep it a buck. Like, girls, you all do that. Y'all all dig up information on people. And I think that Heather is trying to stick by this mightier than thou by creating this precedent of let's stop doing that to each other. Girl, you're housewives. And Bronwyn, this looks like deflection, my love. And I love me some Bronwyn, don't get me wrong. But right now, it's not giving what it needs to give. It's also giving weirdo vibes too, because if something is going on with Meredith and you all think she's off, you all have had plenty of opportunity to have that conversation with her, to ask her directly. Something is fucking off with you, Meredith. What's going on? But it seems like the ladies are approaching it in a different way, where they're kind of going around the issue and are coming off a little bit more kind of like, you know, sharp and like pointed at Meredith to make it seem like she's the problem in the group. And I don't think that's the intention, but it seems like that's what the girls are doing based off the recent experience. Let's take another listen to see how Mary clocks in on these girls.
They just won't let Meredith get away with answering to her crimes, honey, that allegedly happened on the plane. Mary does seem, okay, I do believe Mary is being sincere, and I would love to get your thoughts on it. She really does seem concerned about Meredith. Yeah. She's saying to her, she feels like, you know, how she is spiraling, and they're all talking about her back. She admits that, and she said, we're all concerned, and something is going on, and Meredith is just not giving in much. Do you think this pylon is warranted based on Mary seeming like they've been friends before the show, and she said she's different, that Mary is different?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. None of us are around, right? We don't know what is actually going on. We don't know what they're really seeing. We weren't on the plane. We don't know shit about that. And so, unfortunately, we can't really tell, like, yeah, is she really seriously struggling with something? From what we're seeing, it doesn't look like it. Personally, it doesn't look like it's that deep. It looks like she's having a really rough season. It looks like she's catching a lot of shit. And it looks like it's weighing on her and taking a toll. Now, as far as that being deeper and all of these allegations that they're throwing out as to what the problems are, there's no way for us to know for sure. But I 100% agree with you that Mary was the only one that seemed to come from a place of genuine concern.
All right, tea sippers. That was Monica and Carlos from their podcast where they do recaps of Salt Lake City. But yeah, I agree with Monica. I feel like, you know, to a point it doesn't seem that deep, but I also think Mary had a point at the end to be like, what are y'all doing? Like, why are we sitting around here talking around the issue? And there go Heather doing the same old, putting her hand on her face and covering her face like she did every finale, child. Listen, like, if your friend is going through something, I agree with Mary. I do think it's a little too late. You all wanted to confront her so bad over the Britney thing when y'all don't even like Britney. So I'm trying to figure out what happened. What are we missing? There's a lot of he said, she said thing. I do think it's funny how you know, Mary was like, Lisa, you're self-centered. We all know that. And everybody just went past it. And then she also looked at Bronwyn and she's like, see, it's okay if you stick by your partner or whatever, blah, 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 blah. That's what Bronwyn's doing with Todd. So, like, there's a lot of humor that Mary has, and I think she's genuine and does come from a place of concern. And I think a lot of these ladies, like, for example, I thought it was just weird gang up stuff between Heather and Whitney. It's giving weird. Like, confront the incident right. Like, what are y'all doing? It's weird. Bad weather is back, and they are bad for sure. Because, like, I'm not feeling them this season. They're very, like the way they want to have a conversation about, and I get it, Brittany's their friend, so they're probably coming from this place of protection over their friend, but Meredith's also your friend. If you're concerned about something with her, don't use an opportunity to try to one-up and like, oh, you said this and you said that, or you're gaslighting, you're manipulating me. That's what Brahman and all these girls are doing, and it's so weird. It's like, let's focus on the issue at the time and, like, make sure our friend's okay, and also, if you gotta table it to the reunion, table it and just have a good time in Greece. Because y'all are some weirdos for focusing on this. I will say, I thought the finale was interesting, too. Because things kind of ended on a typical cliffhanger like they usually do. But it'll be interesting to see what the ladies take away from this season of the show. Because it started off with Brahman going at it at Lisa. And then we have Heather turning basically tides with Meredith. Because she says she feels like there's something going on. Or she's just kind of doesn't see her as a friend anymore because she doesn't find her trustworthy or loyal or blah, blah, blah. And, you know, Angie K's living her best life. You know, she took the girls to Greece, and she's doing this as a way to be connected to her culture, but also just kind of carrying through. I would say the center snowflake energy is definitely more so in the Bronwyn and Meredith realm of things, because they're likely to be in a hot seat. We know that Bronwyn is going to admit that she is separated from Todd, and hopefully we'll get more answers from the rest of the ladies about what's going on. Overall, very good season of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. All good. No complaints. I think they're ready for season 7. I do think you got to throw a new housewife in. Either you're throwing a new housewife or you bring back somebody, because you got to switch it up a little bit, because right now I'm used to these ladies, but this year didn't do a good job of keeping a story rolling, right? It was a lot of focus on something that happened off camera. I don't like when the Bravo shows do that. Okay, so I want to hop over to another show that I got into, which was The Traitors. Yes, that's right. The Traitors is back for their, I believe it's their 4th season, and it went off with a bang, y'all. It was really good. So, like, they have a lot of contestants on here. We obviously have the housewives that I've mentioned before. Well, also Monet Exchange. We have a few people from Big Brother and from Survivor. We also have people from the show Love Island. I don't know if you've seen that show, but a lot of the cast is very diverse, which I love, but it's also, everyone has their own personalities. And everyone is so strong in terms of, like, their opinions. And you have people who are coming into the game and just saying whatever. And then they're being accused of being traitors when they're not. I thought the ending of... I haven't got through the first 3 episodes, but the ending of the 2nd episode, OMG. I do feel like this, and I'm just going to clock it. It is kind of a spoiler. But Portia. For this Rob guy to think that Portia is his mastermind who is a traitor, who is spilling all her tea, you clearly don't watch the Real Housewives of Atlanta, because that's not what was happening on the Traitors. I will say, because now this is public knowledge, we know that Rob G, I believe, or Rob R, which one of the Robs, from Love Island is a traitor. And then you have Candace from the Real Housewives of Potomac, yes, y'all, is a traitor, who is, you know, gonna do her thing and hopefully not get into too much trouble. And then Lisa Rinna, when I found out that Lisa Rinna was a traitor, I was sold. I was like, okay, this is going to be the season to watch, because we know she makes good TV. So those 3 met, and then there's a twist. Another spoiler, there's a twist, and there's a secret traitor. So there's speculation that there's someone amongst the cast who is, well, there isn't speculation, there is, but there's speculation from what I'm seeing that it could be somebody who we're not even expecting is what they're talking about online. But so anyway, in the beginning of the episode, they decided that there is going to be a traitor who is already selected amongst the group, but the other group of traitors won't know who that traitor is. So it's a plot twist that I wasn't expecting, my husband wasn't expecting, I'm sure the viewers weren't expecting. But I want to start thinking about who some of those people could be. And Donna Kelsey just stands out to me. She was someone's name who was thrown up at the round table. She just seems very suspicious. As well as Mark Ballas, Michael Rappaport, and a few others that seem rather suspicious to me. But the least people that seemed suspicious was definitely Portia. You know, I would say the Rob comedian guy seems quite suspicious, because for him to throw Portia's name in there randomly, it wasn't randomly, but to really, really die hard with that and not try to go after a few other people that kind of have some clues against them. But you have to think about it. Portia kind of gave herself away with, like, saying the wrong shit. Now, if you watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Portia is known for, like, misspeaking or saying the wrong thing. For example, where's the railroad for the Underground Railroad? I know they needed a railroad. It's what she said on Atlanta when they were touring one of the African American museums and monuments. But anyway, so I think The Traitors is going to be a fantastic season. Everybody's already getting physical. There's some cuties on the show. I will say that some people to watch would definitely be Rob, for sure. Not because he's cute, but just because, well, he is cute, but you know what I mean. I would say him as a traitor, I think he's going to do a great job. I think Lisa Rinna is going to do a great job as a traitor. I don't know about Candace. I think Candace is hit or miss, because she's doing a lot of talking. And traitors, you shouldn't be that loud. But I want her to get into her faithful era to really, 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 like, convince people that she's a faithful, because now's the time to start doing that. And then the guy from The Bachelor, Colton Underwood, who is openly gay football player who went on The Bachelor and then came out as gay afterwards. He's on the show. He's phenomenal. along with a few others from the world. I see a few people from the Survivor world and Big Brother, so it'll be interesting because they were already plotting to get out some of these smart players out, especially from the Big Brother house. So the Traitors is off to a great start. I'm going to watch the 3rd episode and keep you all posted as I keep going. I'm going to try not to give away too many spoilers, but as the group gets smaller, I'm going to obviously want to say who's left in the competition. And I think you all just got to get ready for the tea. Alright, let's go ahead and give our recap for Canada's Drag Race. So we have a few episodes to recap on. So the first one was episode 7, and that challenge that week I believe was Design Challenge. And we had Suki Doll come in to help the girls with finding like how to design their outfits and that kind of thing. And they basically had to design like a Paris spring-summer look for themselves, which was basically something that Brooklyn wore on the runway. And PM won the mini challenge, and then Van Gogh won the maxi challenge because her outfit was amazing. And she won a trip to Punta Cana, so that's actually like a cute little prize. PM was in the bottom 2 with Saltina Shaker, I believe. And I believe, yes, Saltina was eliminated, and I was devastated. Because in that lip sync, you can tell that she could have gave more, but PM stood out, unfortunately, in that lip sync. And then, which leaves us wonder for what's going to happen in the next few weeks. So, apparently episode 8 is going to be about, like, a challenge where they have to put together, like, a series of different, like, challenges, basically. So, a different, like, tasks, if you will. And basically, they had to think of it as, like, a brand or, like, a runway and, like, a performance and kind of, like, make, like, a twist into something. And not to give away who went home, but, you know, I think the person who was selected to go home should not have gone because they ate the lip sync up. But, giving the competition and where they are right now, I'm super excited with who made it to the top because those are the queens that have been showing up all season long and have been really bringing it in terms of personality and basically the whole package. So, I'll be excited to see what happens with Canada's Drag Race. Just to give more tea about who's left in the competition. So, left in the competition is Van Gogh, Sammy Landry, Ebony LaBelle, PM, and Cara Milk. And rumors are starting to speculate that Cara Milk is actually the queen that is going to get eliminated. And that the top 4 of this season will be PM, Ebony, Van Gogh, and Sammy Landry. Thank you all so much for listening to another episode of Clock the Tea with Dr. Long. You know I bring it to you every time. And if you can, spread love. And only give your time to people that will value you. Because you're important. Bye, Tea Sippers. Have a good one.